Hey, everybody. Our friend Alex Berenson is in the mix once again. We're going to talk to him about Make America Healthy Again, about the Biden cognitive decline story, which just got a big addition to that timeline from the New York Times over the weekend. And yes, some Epstein stuff, because I haven't had his take yet on it, and we still have a lot of people who are very fired up about this. Mr. Berenson, of course, Unreported Truths on Substack. Go subscribe. Does great work there. Sir, I want to give you the floor. We haven't talked, you and I, on the show about Epstein stuff yet. People,
Yeah.
what is your take with where we are right now on this?
Well, I mean, look, I should be asking you because we know you handled him for the CIA. We know that was your job.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I shouldn't
amazing
even
how
joke,
many people
right?
think. How many people think I'm handling Clay for the CIA based on what he says on this? I'm like, guys, it's no one could handle Clay. Trust me. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I almost didn't even want to make the joke because, like, I know just saying something like
Yeah, no,
that,
there's going to be people in
there
the
will be
comments
people-
who are like, he's saying it because it's true. It's like, oh, God.
right? It's no, it's not. I mean, look, you said before we started, like, you feel like everybody said all there is to say, and I think you're right, but there is. Like, the reason this still has a hold is because it is so weird, right? What's happened in the last, week, and then last month with Elon saying, that Trump was in the files, this allegation about Bannon. I tend not to believe in big conspiracies, okay? And so,
Which is,
which
is saying something considering you were the guy that the Biden administration worked with big tech to like undermine and kick off the internet and go after. And so for you to say you're not into conspiracies as a general matter, I feel like you have some credibility in the area.
Right. And by the way, I can't get anybody except you practically to acknowledge that this happened, which is, totally gaslighting and mind blowing and, like insanity making for me. That the mainstream media will not cover that. So we know the mainstream media has blinders. Okay. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was a really bad guy and that he procured a lot of teenage girls. I don't think they were 5-year-olds, but they were teenage girls. They were being taken advantage of. They were often from either poor families or poor countries. He was an intermediary for wealthy men to get massages, to have sex with these girls. There's no question about all of that. Would that make him an attractive target to an intelligence agency or even the FBI? Yeah, of course it would, right? I mean, that's not a conspiracy, I don't think, to suggest that that's a possibility, right? And by the way, if he were a cooperating witness working with the FBI or the CIA or the DEA, would they have interceded, in the mid-2000s to, try to get his prosecution, either dropped or pushed way down?
It was substantially downgraded from what anybody else would have ever faced for similar stuff. Yeah.
That's right. And so, but like, again, I don't really think that suggesting that that's a possibility makes you a conspiracy theorist, nor does it mean that something bad happened, but that happens, right? Like, we let murderers go to catch, drug kingpins, right? We let drug kingpins go to catch arms traffickers, right? Like there is a hierarchy, and the U.S. government plays this game, right? Everyone plays this game. So to suggest that might have happened, I don't think.
Well, 20 years ago, because I think what people would say is that as they learn more about Epstein and what happened in 2019 was the Miami Herald story came out before that, and it all of a sudden it was, no, Epstein's actually like doing the worst, like he's the worst guy, right? Like there is no worst.
Well, was he doing the worst, or was he doing stuff that the people who made these deals knew, and and it wasn't child rape, let's say. Again, it was I'm going to bring in this 15-year-old from Romania, and she's pretty and she's going to be made available. That is a crime. You should be punished for that. You should be punished severely for that. That is not, having sex with a 2-year-old and then killing the 2-year-old in some ritual murder. Let's be clear, right? Like what Epstein is sort of known to have done is not the stuff that is floating around out there. So here's the thing. Like, you can say and believe that probably Epstein flipped at some point, that he made information available, again, whether it was the CIA, the DEA, the FBI, some foreign intelligence service, who knows, and still not think that the crazy stuff that they're like, pedophiles run the government, and it's all being kept secret to save George Bush from having to admit that he was Barack Obama's lover, or whatever the nonsense.
I mean, I'll say this: I've had a lot of people. I've had a lot of people from the radio show audience, for example, very angry at me, very angry at Clay, and I still uphold. I think that Epstein was engaged in blackmail. I think he might very well have been an asset or an agent of a intelligence service or a foreign power. I leave those open as possibilities, and those are ones that I find likely. What I don't have is proof of this, or rather such specificity that I can say this group, that individual, whatever it may be. And I do know I do know that he received treatment that nobody else would have. That is a fact. I do know that the suicide was super sketchy. That is a fact. And also the way that this has been handled with the binders and the rollout. Okay, that's all. But at the end of the day, the people who are mad at me, I keep saying, you actually, if you're mad at me as just somebody who is analyzing and talking about public domain, you really should just be mad at Donald Trump. Because he's told you now very clearly, we have shared what needs to be shared. This issue is over with. That is from Trump himself at this point. So it is not, it is the irrational break that I've had to make clear, rather the cognitive dissonance that I've had to call out is you can't be mad at people who don't agree with you on this, but not be mad at Donald Trump, right?
No, but I totally agree. I think you've laid it out perfectly. But I think people are mad at Trump. I mean, I think it seems to me from the emails I get and what I see on X that
some of them are. Some of them are.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just saying. You can't be mad at the people that aren't as far, as sort of fired up on this issue as some of the people out there very clearly are, without saying that this is a decision. This decision has truly been made from the top now, that this is the information that's out there, and Trump has made the decision. So that is where this is.
Right? Is he going to be able to hold to that? I guess we'll see. But it clearly there are people who are unsatisfied. And what's also very interesting is now that the left, which is always, we believe in science, we don't believe in conspiracies. They've seen an opportunity.
They realize
here,
there's a huge fracture that they can exploit here, and they're finally. Everybody I know on the right has actually been talking about this for the last week, which is, they keep on MSNBC. They keep running these teary-eyed, like, look at the illegals they're getting rid of. And everybody on the right is like, yes, I voted for it. Like, this is getting us excited, right? They don't understand.
Yes.
We're done with this. That doesn't work. What actually, if you're looking to create problems or fan the flames, is this Epstein stuff on the right. And the Democrats have finally woken up to that. So, all right, I think we've said our piece on that for now. And one more thing, go ahead.
No, that's it. I would just say the only thing that I ever saw that got between Trump and the MAGA base in any way was the vaccines, and he successfully navigated that, actually. I mean, because there were a lot of people who didn't like the vaccines, who didn't like the mRNAs, and what he figured out was he could say he was against the mandates, and that would satisfy people. I mean, and I did think Ron DeSantis would be able to make a huge issue out of that in 2023, and he was not able to. So perhaps Trump will find a way to navigate this, but this is bigger than the mRNAs.
Oh, yes. No, I think for a lot of people, certainly right now it is. All right. A word from our sponsor here before we dive into the Biden dementia cover-up thing, because we got more on that from the New York. Alex used to work at the New York Times, so we can have a fun conversation about that. I love just pointing it out, because I'm sure there's so many libs who see that the notion that you were ever even allowed in the building, Mr. Berenson. Yes. They must see that this idea. But first up, our sponsor here is Birch Gold. And as you know, the big, beautiful bill passed. There's a lot of good stuff coming in the Trump economy. The Trump economy is already really cooking, and I think it's going to get even better. But he's only in office for 4 years. And the $37 trillion in debt we have is not going away. Purchasing power has been going down for years and years now because of the excessive spending. And you need to find ways to protect your wealth and to diversify. That's where gold comes in. It's time for you to get some gold to hedge against inflation, economic instability, and the long-term challenges we have to the dollar. And Birch Gold is who I trust to do this for you. They've helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Okay? Birch Gold Group. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. Birch Gold to help you with a free, no-obligation info kit. Text my name, Buck, to 989898 today. Birch Gold Group, they are the best in the business. I have to say, I think that the Biden dementia cover-up is one of these. It's an issue where the Democrats keep trying to head it off or put it to bed or start to and they always seem to make it a little worse in my mind. And I, and an example of this for me is the New York Times with this big piece about, Biden knew about all the pardons is basically the headline, right? Paraphrasing.
Right.
And then you get into it and it's very clear. No, he absolutely did not know what was going on with all of these pardons. No idea.
No, you're right. He knew that he was pardoning Hunter. The rest of it was sort of like, hey, Mr. President, we think that there are too many people in jail for nonviolent drug crimes. Okay. And like that was more or less it, right? And like then they would the chief of staff and people 2 levels down would debate who should be in and out. And I mean, there was one. It's funny. You're making me want to write about this. It's sort of one of these pieces where I go through a New York Times article and tell you what it really says because the facts are in there, but the truth is still hidden because of the way they write it. There was an email late in the piece that they mentioned, and it was like, Mr. Zentz, who was the chief of staff at the time, this is a name I know very well because he was the head of the COVID response in 2021. So, and he got promoted for that. So he sent out an email saying it's okay to use the auto pen. Well, shouldn't it be the president sending out the email saying it's okay to use the auto pen? But you're absolutely right. You are not getting the impression of a chief executive who is like down in the nitty gritty. I mean, to the extent he has any idea what's going on, it's in the broadest strokes.
Yes, and I think that the problem for places like the New York Times and others in this whole process is how can you have any credibility to talk or report on this issue at this stage when essentially the only way to maintain any credibility is to tell everybody we were so dumb and so incapable of basic observation that we missed this. Now, I, of course, think that they have to say that because to point out that they were just colluding in a giant lie to get a guy elected who was a vegetable is even worse for them. But we're so dumb we couldn't see what everybody else could plainly see. That's a tough brand hit. This is why CNN has like 50,000 people watching now.
Especially when you're the New York Times and you think you're the smartest and you tell everyone you're the smartest. Your brand is sort of being the smartest. No, what they really need to do is, look, as I joke, although it's not a joke, they'll acknowledge me on the 12th of never. But like they need to bring me or Taibbi or somebody else in to write the piece, like to be the person who investigates how the Times did this with full editorial control. They're not allowed to edit it. And they just, they cooperate, they open their documents, and they just publish what I write or what Taibbi writes. That's the only way forward for them on this issue. They'll never do it. Jake Tapper, I mean, you could see how desperate they are to move forward from this because Tapper's book, which is just a bunch of Democrats, complaining that they were misled, and a few reporters, and basically ends where it should begin, ends with the acknowledgement that Biden was a vegetable. Well, thanks for that, Jake.
Yeah, thanks.
You can see that book got like incredible acclaim from all these people on the left because they do want to pretend that like somehow there were 3 people in the White House who knew Biden was demented and everyone else couldn't see it.
But see the big part of that is a huge miss, which there's a lot of parts of that book that's a huge miss. But one part of it that stands out is in all of this, no one is actually lying named in that book from what I understand, right? It's everyone says someone lied to me and somebody was covering this up, but there's no person the book even insinuates is the one doing the lying and the covering up, right? So it's like
that's right.
It's
like
all
a book
in the
passive voice,
right? It's a book about a murder where you never hear who the murderer is, right? I mean, you never hear like who actually did the thing. It's just somebody's like, oh my gosh, can you believe that someone killed this guy over here? Like, what a terrible thing it is that some other person did. No one is responsible. It's preposterous. The book is preposterous.
No, it is preposterous, and you can see. Like there are smarter Democrats. The Times actually did have a story today about these sort of center-left Democrats who are acknowledging what what a like anchor this is, that they're stuck still having to talk about this more than a year later, but they still can't figure out how to get out of it, because it really will require, and for the media even more, because the media is supposed to be independent, like an acknowledgement of, we just didn't like Donald Trump and we were willing to do anything to keep him out.
That would be true. That, to me, I actually appreciated it more when they said the truth is anti-Trump, therefore in telling the truth we have to be anti-Trump, right? That was the circular logic that the Washington Post and these others, and you know what? I said, you guys are insane, but at least that, at least there's some authenticity or some integrity to that, right? Like, you're just telling us that you're just propaganda now, right? But in this one, there's still this, oh yeah, we were so dumb we couldn't figure it out, which I think nobody believes. Our sponsor here real quick, Alex, and then I got to ask you about Maha, and then we're actually at time. We're having too much fun. It's flying.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Our sponsor here is Paradigm Press. There's something under American soil that has a value to it in the trillions of dollars, 160 trillion to be more precise. It's been there forever. This is not new. This endowment is so large it could pay off our national debt 4 times over. Now, thanks to a Supreme Court decision, the Trump administration could soon release that endowment to the public. Jim Rickards, former advisor to the White House and Federal Reserve, says if you're over 50, this could be your best chance to build lasting wealth from a once-in-a-century event. It's a big statement. To hear more of what Jim has to say, go online to birthright2025.com. That's birthright2025.com to get the details free of charge, paid for by Paradigm Press. All right, we only got a couple minutes, Alex. What's the most interesting health story you're working on right now? Big pharma, yada, yada. What's keeping you up at night?
Well, I mean, I think that the efforts that, RFK and Jay Bhattacharya at NIH and Vinay Prasad at FDA and Marty Makary at FDA are making, or Makary, I should say, at FDA are making right now, to try to put some limits on the mRNA shots, and the unbelievable pushback that they are facing for doing stuff that wouldn't even put the United States in line with Europe. Okay, most European countries have essentially halted the use of these vaccines, for almost everybody under 65. And when these guys are trying to move us a little bit in that direction, it gets talked about like they literally are trying to, throw babies under a bus. It's not. I mean, look, most people aren't getting the COVID vaccine. So this may seem like a theoretical argument, but to me, it's a very important debate and discussion, because it shows you how insane the U.S. health system is about vaccinations, about mandatory vaccinations, about not considering the risk and benefit of new vaccinations, and just how difficult it is to get these people to look at the data and the science. They claim that they care about data. They claim that they're science driven, but it turns out that they're just completely ideologically blinkered on this issue and on a lot of health issues. And so I'm really watching what's happening with the mRNAs very closely. Obviously, it's something I care about a lot and written about a lot, but I think it's also a sign of something much bigger.
Alex Berenson, everybody. Unreported Truths on Substack. Go subscribe. Mr. Berenson, always a pleasure. Thank you,
sir.